Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tara Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on Om Times Radio.
Hi, this is Martha of Eros Coaching, and this radio show is called Eros Evolution. This is where sexuality and spirituality meets, and I'm very pleased to have a guest with me today. But before that, let me tell you a little bit of myself. Since this is the first time I'm doing this show, I'm a little bit nervous. I haven't slept all night. I'm a Singaporean Chinese and I'm based in Singapore, born and bred in Singapore, but I have a doctorate in human sexuality from San Francisco. I've been in practice in Singapore for 5 years, and I wanted to do this show because I am personally interested in the link between sexuality and spirituality. This link, why is it important, and also what we who are perhaps spiritually conscious and aware what we can actually do to help with our own evolution. So what I'm doing is I'm bringing guests who are in the field of sexuality and spirituality to enlighten listeners. And also from time to time, I might be sharing news related to sexuality that I come across and books and resources that I come across as well. So I have with me Lawrence Lenoff, and he has very kindly agreed to be the first person on my show. His topic is on sex and spirituality, the intersection of spirituality and reality. So what is it that actually makes us feel so badly in our bodies and minds when we consider our free-flowing sexual energy? Why is it so difficult to get our deeper needs met and still feel spiritual? Who is Lawrence Lenoff? He is an award-winning sexuality educator who teaches the art of radical self-acceptance around the world. He leads people into new paradigms of expanded freedom and pleasure while deprogramming them from the limitations of cultural repression and suppression. He is the best-selling author of the book, A Course in Freedom, and he has helped thousands of people embrace radical self-acceptance in their daily lives. He is the recipient of the United Nations Global 500 Award for his work on the documentary We Can Make a Difference. It focuses on young people helping the environment. His website is Lawrence Lenoff, LANOFF.com. You can check out his website as we continue the show. So welcome, Lawrence. Thank you so much for being here. So we were having a chat just now, just before we came on air, and you mentioned on your website that you had this spiritual awakening, and what exactly does that mean? Okay, wait. Yeah, I can hear you, but wait, hang on. on this Skype window, do I see a plus? Plus add Lawrence. This is so confusing. Okay, do you mind repeating what you just told me about this this spiritual awakening that you had at the age of 5? What exactly did you ask your mom? Yes, I can hear you. Are we live again? Don't worry, it's just recording, and I think we can do something about patching it together. I'm so sorry. Oh, you're so kind. Am I not able to add you? I thought I already did. Okay, bye. There's only one call.
Hello. Hello, hello. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. That's good. Okay, it sounds like we're on.
Okay. How is the sound?
Sounds good to me.
I don't know why. Sorry, can we try another laptop? I'm canceling the whole thing, okay? Hang on, we'll try another laptop.
Hello.
Ah, okay, I figured out what I did wrong.
Okay.
Hello, we are back. Are we back? Okay, it's a bit complicated for someone like me. I only like to talk. Okay, can we start again? We have like a DJ here who's only typing to me.
Okay, yeah, we can. I'm ready when you are.
Okay. Okay, so just now you were telling me about your awakening when you, well, not really your awakening, when you were curious when you were 5, and what exactly did you ask your mom?
Oh well, I asked her something about how I was seeing and perceiving life. So it just had something to do with perception, but it was the perception that made me really be curious. It was like what she said to me about perception. She's like, "Oh, those are just floaters in your eyes or something in your eyes," and I was I was seeing something so profound that it made me just question reality. And that started me on my journey. And I've studied all kinds of things that you just can't even imagine. Finally, I would say at this point, about 20 years ago, and I was meditating, and I realized that I would need to go inside and learn all of this myself. Like I was going to need to just start studying inside to really get to know me from the inside out. And that is what really began my spiritual journey. And I began meditating over the course of the next 10 years. I really intensely, um, I really, really intensely worked on finding out who I was through deep meditation. I'm talking like sometimes 2 to 3 weeks of meditating. And in that time, I began to really discover something profound that when I attained that awareness, I began to understand something about life, something super profound, right? I began to understand, like, oh, okay, so I'm experiencing this unitive state, this what I would call non duality, oneness. And I stayed in that state for almost 3 months nonstop. Like there was just this no break in awareness. There was not a, I'm sleeping now, I'm awake now. There was just continual awareness. That awareness was what began to change my life because it was out of that. And this is why you and I are on this show. It was out of that that I realized the big thing that unifies humanity is our sexual energy. That it's not just spirituality, because I met lots of spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual people who were super unhappy. So it wasn't, I only live in my heart, therefore I'm happy. I realized that I even had a lot of these quote unquote enlightened teachers come to talk to me about sex because I wasn't afraid to have that discussion. So that was really my transformation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I am trying to understand, like, how do you know you are awakened? Like, what exactly is this feeling you're talking about, and how will someone know when they are at that state? Are you like in complete bliss all the time, like ecstasy, or you feel one with the universe?
Well, yeah, it's the non-dual, it's like the non-dual state. It's like oneness with all that there is. And that is what we're talking about here, right? It's it's like I don't know how to describe it, but when you know. There's no question. It's not ambiguous. It's not like, I wonder. No, it's just it's kind of like the difference of, let's say, watching a little black and white movie on your iPad or your iPhone, and then walking into a movie theater, and there's, it's an IMAX theater, and the screen is like full on, and and the sound is full on, and you're not sitting there going like, I wonder if I'm in a theater now. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh.
And so, and that's how it was. And that's how it's actually how it's been. It's changed. And my focus has changed over time. Like, that happened to me in 1999. And a lot has changed in that time.
Right. So since your awakening, what actually has changed? You mentioned that you are focusing on doing sexuality educating, but what has changed?
Well, I would say the biggest thing that changed is I realized that people have been really controlled through their sexuality. So one of the things that happened was when I awakened, my entire being awakened. It wasn't like just my heart awakened or just my crown chakra awakened. My entire being awakened, including my sexuality. And so I had never really read anything about that. Everything I had read was just like, no, you've got to overcome, you've got to transcend. But when this happened, I realized that was incorrect. That yeah, you can sublimate and you can suppress, but the bottom line is that there is this energy, life force energy. It's not just like sex as people understand it. It's like this rush of life force energy that also ran through my genitals, that ran through my entire body. It wasn't like only one thing open. Like, my entire being, every cell of my being opened up, including my sex center. And so this left me being very curious, because that's not what I read. And so it was a little bit, I know it wasn't even confusing. I was just like, oh, wow, this is information that has probably been kept hidden from people, because if you really recognize the power of life force energy, the power of your sexual energy, you honestly, there's no way to control people, because it's just so rich and textured and sublime and blissful, right? So this full-bodied, expansive, infinite, non-dual bliss can't be contained. And that is really what began to change for me. Like, I realized that this is something that was probably not written about or spoken about, because people realized the raw power of it.
So I'm curious, if this was hidden, why do you think this has been hidden? This seems something that you didn't know and was happening, and maybe more people should know about it. Why do you think it was hidden?
Well, here's the thing. When I say it's hidden, here's what I mean. If you believe that the earth is flat, everything in your experience would tell you that the earth is flat, right? That's how it is. Like, your experience says, oh yeah, the earth is flat. But as soon as you, either through meditation or through knowledge or through learning or whatever, you would start to understand, you'd get this bigger perspective, this bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that as you lift, as you transform, as you expand beyond your perceptions, something incredible happens, and you suddenly realize, like, oh, wait a minute, the earth is actually round. So before, when I was thinking that the earth was flat, you and I would not even be able to have a conversation, Martha, because you're in Singapore and I'm currently in Los Angeles. So if the earth was flat, you would literally be off the side of the earth in the mouth of the dragon. But as soon as I come to the awareness that, oh, wait a minute, my perception, my understanding is wrong, my entire universe shifts. Does that make sense? It's an entire paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Prior to the moment of understanding that the earth is round, everything in my reality tells me the earth is flat. And so that's why these things are so impossible to talk about, so difficult to talk about. That's the challenge as a teacher. It's taken me, that was 1999. It's taken me since then, almost, right, it's like 15 years to try to figure out how to teach people these things in a way that, you know, is not so scary. Because if you've been taught that the earth is flat and that 25 miles from the point where you are, there will be a, you know, you'll be swallowed by the dragon, you're not going to be so willing to go there. So it's kind of helping people take small steps. And one of them is to realize that this, which has been shamed in our culture, where women are shamed for their bodies, where sex is shamed and has to be hidden, that was done so because people had a different framework. They had sort of a flat earth framework around sex and sexual energy. But my experience is that as I awakened, my entire, every cell of my being awakened in an entirety, and that changed everything. So I don't even see sex and spirituality as separate things now. I don't perceive that in my body. It's all one huge round earth context now.
It's you know, as you are sharing all this, I can feel my body vibrating, and it's like what you're saying, and it's just very inspiring to hear. I'm just wondering how people who can only get a glimpse of what is possible from hearing your voice and the conviction and the power and authority behind it can actually get closer to what you have felt. It's one thing to read it in a book, like I've read it in Deepak Chopra's book, but I haven't really felt it in that way.
Right, but right now you're becoming aware of something in your body, right? There's something stirring in you. That stirring is a flavor that begins to point to the infinite. That stirring, that vibrating. And the reason you're feeling that is because I'm not trying to get you to just stay in your heart center. I'm not just trying to get you to be in a little, you know, in your crown chakra. What I'm inviting you to do is step into the entirety of your being. And that's what you're feeling. So if somebody's listening to this right now, I would just invite them to feel your entire body, to begin to tune into a global awareness, as opposed to just trying to get everything, you know, get the mind quiet or focus on your heart or do something like that. It's really the experience that sets the new reference point. It's the awareness of something that's possible. It's like a flavor or a hint, like you're breathing, you know, like you smell something in the distance through the air. You don't know exactly what it is, but there's something that begins to tingle and awaken. That is the power of what we're sharing here.
This is beautiful. We are going to go into a break, and I'd like to invite listeners, just as you have just invited them, to breathe and feel what I'm feeling right now. Tingles throughout my arms, my back, and just shift their awareness to within their bodies. And we're going to breathe through this commercial break, and we'll be back for more.
Yeah, and just keep feeling in your body. So you want to feel the vibration. You want to feel the energy all the way down from your head to your toes. Like, this is really the key. So you feel as if you're reaching across, as if you're almost letting life come to you. And this is really what is so powerful here, is really recognizing that what we're talking about here is life force energy. That which is the call to life, that which is the call to awakening. We all have seeds of awakening within us, seeds that are yearning to be free. That is the power of what we're speaking about here. So the deeper you go, the better you feel. The better you feel, the more you relax. The more you relax, the deeper and deeper and deeper you can go into the infinite experience of expanding self-awareness, expanding into the totality of who you are. Keep breathing. So you feel your body. You feel through the core of your being. Keep breathing, feeling, connecting. It's a beautiful world. So good to feel.
Conscious connection to a more mindful world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, this is Angela Levesque, host of Entanglement Radio. Join me Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science and conscious healing. Entanglement Radio, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transcendent talk for the conscious mind.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake. The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
This is Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets, and I have with me my guest, Lawrence Lenoff. He's an award-winning sexuality educator who was just sharing with us how he had his awakening in 1990, and since then has been changing the world by helping people to reconnect or connect with their sexuality. So, Lawrence, I'm really curious. This is just the next natural question. What exactly do you do in your work?
It's a great question and nearly impossible to describe exactly, but I'll do my best. Basically, my experience is that where people feel the most compression is around shame. And that shame and that guilt that we feel has everything to do with our beliefs about life and reality and just what we believe about everything. Things that mom taught us and dad taught us, and just things that we've learned through our cultural upbringing and everything else. So what I do, I work with people both in a one-on-one, super intensive way. And that is only for people who are saying like, yes, I want to have my world just really blown up, because it's very intense. Like, that kind of training is very, very intense, and it literally shakes people down to the very core of everything that they know themselves to be and everything they believe. And that has everything to do with beliefs, how energy moves through their body, and how to really live in what I call durable well-being, the ability to be in your flexible, durable well-being. And then there's another thing that happens where I'll work with people, let's say, in group situations. And in group situations, it's really to just teach them to realize that they're not alone. And that seems to be a very big thing when it comes to sex and spirituality. So there's a lot of information out there around spirituality, but very, very, very precious little that deals with the reality of sexual energy. And that is what I'll teach in group spaces, where I'll just take people through experiences, because as we demonstrated before the break, it's much more profound to have your own experience of energy in your body than it is to talk about it. Like, we could talk about it, but it's like the equivalent of talking about a color. Like, we can talk about the color, but until you actually see that color, it's just an idea. So that's what we're talking about today.
So because I'm a sexologist myself, I work with clients who have a lot of sexual inhibitions, usually because of cultural upbringing and negative messages, as well as lack of sexuality education growing up. So how exactly do you teach them this? Because it's something quite intangible.
Well, it is and it isn't. So the intangibles are our belief systems. That's intangible because we can't see them. So these relate to what I would call a kind of cognitive bias or a cognitive self-delusion. In other words, we can't see what we can't see. We can't see our blind spots. So one of the first things I'll do with people is just help them start to see those blind spots, right? That's part of it's profound. You want to see the things that you can't see. But the only problem is the way you can't see the things that you can't see on your own. That's the paradox. There's really no way to see what you can't see. So you have to go to people that you trust at the deepest level of your being, right? There's a call, there's something that happens, there's a stirring, and you say, okay, I'm going to trust this person, right? Because essentially you're trusting them with your life. And that's how I feel about when we're talking about sex and sexuality and sexual energy. People are coming to me, they're trusting me with their life. They're trusting me that I can help them experience something that is this intangible radiance. And so much of the time that has to do with our blind spots, because what really I tell people, and I will say the same thing to you, Martha, the thing you should be asking me is not what is it that I believe, but rather what is it that I don't believe that you do about sex and spirituality. And that's really the thing. It's more about helping people drop the beliefs that no longer serve us, which is what you're talking about. I mean, obviously that's what you do too. You're helping break the cultural mythological, really bad training and lack of education that we have, and you're really helping people. I can tell that, I can feel it in you. You're helping people really step into the truth of who they are. And I feel like that is our job. That's why of all of the things that I could have taught, I could have had my awakening experience and said, hey, I'm going to start a religion, or hey, I'm going to start a cult, or hey, I'm going to start a group. And it's none of those are not things I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is giving people knowledge, helping them drop beliefs so that they can expand into their autonomous power, because in that power, they'll figure it out. I want to give people enough knowledge and experience so that they can go forth and prosper and live a beautiful, happy life with a sense of durable well-being. And the only way to do that is to find a way to work with your sexual energy.
Mm. So since your awakening and being a sexuality educator, working with people, how has all that changed your personal life?
Well, I mean, what hasn't changed? It's like everything has changed, because there's no way to look at life the way I used to look at life. There's just no way. It's kind of like, another way to think about it is, once when you're small in the States, we have Santa Claus, and when you're a little kid, you're like, Santa brings gifts, and everybody's all just excited about that, and everybody plays along with you when you're little. They're just like, yeah, there's Santa, right? But at some point you figure out that isn't really what you've been told. Right? So we learn something. We realize that this is not true or not accurate. And once you learn that, once you understand that, there's no way to go back, right? And it doesn't matter if 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 children are coming up to me saying, Santa, Santa. It doesn't make me wonder and go like, oh gosh, maybe my mom was right. Maybe Santa does exist, right? So the same thing is true with a lot of our life lessons that we've learned, right? So your, for example, like your parents probably told you, hey, Martha, be afraid of strangers. Don't take candy from strangers. Be wary of strangers, right? But at some point in your life, you had to come to terms with the fact that maybe that's a useful instruction when you're 5 years old, but maybe it's not so useful when you're 20 years old.
Yeah.
Right? At some point, you have to start to talk to strangers. Otherwise, you'll spend your entire life alone. And that's the paradox of life. This is the great, I feel in a way, the great lie is that, and I don't think it's an intentional lie. I think it's just, we grow up, parents teach what they learned. And so there's this lineage that gets passed down. And then every once in a while, there'll be somebody like me who whatever people are saying is just not good enough. It doesn't satisfy me. And so I'm asking these why questions. I'm sure you have too. Otherwise you would not have embarked on this path. It's the path of sexuality as a path of self-discovery, but also as a teaching path. It's not the easiest path in the world. I mean, I've had people, people have very strong feelings about that, but especially when you combine sex and spirituality. But the reality is that all of the things that I wanted when I was, quote unquote, on my spiritual path, when I was on my traditional spiritual path, all those things that I wanted when I was so stressed out, when I was trying to be mindful, when I was trying to be spiritual, when I was trying to not judge, when I was trying, like all of these things that you're told to do to, quote unquote, be spiritual, all of those things came to me after I awakened naturally. They were an outflow. I didn't have to do anything. I don't struggle to stay awake or mindful. It's like now it's just, I just see clearly, and I just try to share that clarity, this what I call this clear light. It's not it doesn't have a moral agenda. I don't have like this thing that like, oh, if only everybody believed X, then the world would be a better place. I don't believe that. I know that's not true. But there is so the closest way I can describe it is this idea of radical self-acceptance, where you start to realize like whatever you're feeling is just part of being a human being. It's part of life. And that the spiritual path is really breaking the old beliefs that we have about life and reality and sexuality, and questioning that to the point where those beliefs fall apart, and then you're left with something that I call the pure or the empty awareness, the field of being that includes all of you. It's not exclusive, but it includes all of you. And like as I'm listening to you, Martha, as I'm feeling you, even in the face of any, as you said at the beginning of the show, having some little bit of anxiety or whatever, like even in the face of all of that, there's still you. And all of that can be embraced without effort, but rather with awareness. And that awareness can be held in sweetness. And that sweetness emanates from our ability to be free-flowing, to be in our sexual power, and to be in our empowerment. And that really is the message that sexuality is a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on Om Times Radio.
Hi, my name is Monica and I'm the host of Co-Creating Now. Give yourself an opportunity to connect with your all-knowing higher self and manifest joy, love, and peace together every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
The Conscious Parenting Radio Show provides inspiration and resources for loving, empowering, and respecting your children and yourself. Join me, Timothy, every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as we consciously explore proven ways of living together in happiness, health, and harmony.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle. Free your mind. Expand your soul. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
This is Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. My name is Martha. I'm a sexologist based in Singapore, and I have an amazing guest. His name is Lawrence Lanoff. He is a sexuality educator who has the book called A Course in Freedom, and his book promises to change your life. It sounds like an amazing book that you have. Can you tell us more about your book and any other products that you have for those people who are not able to perhaps attend your workshops, Lawrence?
For sure. So I'll tell you a little bit about the book. So the book was really a documentation of it took me 4 years to write. And it was a writing about these ideas that I was discovering in this new field of awareness. And so there's a lot of really beautiful things in there, a lot of things to help you break down beliefs. That is, that was my intention in writing the book. I just knew that it's so important because our beliefs, they just feel so real to us. So it just becomes important to have a clear mirror. And I feel like the book is just a clear mirror. It's saying like, hey, maybe that thing that you believed, maybe it's not accurate. And if it's not accurate, what else does that mean? So the book is really a beautiful exploration of that. And then what I try to do is I try to communicate either on my mailing list, which is at lawrencelanoff.com, or through YouTube. I like to put up fairly regularly. I'll answer questions for people, or put up some stuff that I'm thinking about that I want people to digest. And those are things that are they can be challenging sometimes, but for sure YouTube, so if you go to YouTube, my username is either, you can look me up by Lawrence Lanoff, or you can check out, it's also Soullight, SOULLIGHT, and that's a really good channel to subscribe to just see what I'm up to. I love to answer people's questions, so you can also email me, and I think that's just a way to share some ideas. And before we leave today, I want to share some ideas, one core teaching, Martha, with your listeners that I
Yes,
think
please.
I think this is probably one of the, there have been hundreds, if not thousands, of realizations that have come to me, understandings, but I really feel like related to sex and spirituality, this concept, which I want to lay out for you right now, is probably one of the most important ones. And it's important because it gets to the very paradigm. It's like a paradigm shift, like we were talking about earlier, where you see the world as flat, and then suddenly you go like, oh wait, it's round. So we've pretty much globally, we have been taught that pain and suffering are the path to liberation. And so really that belief system is in every aspect of life, including our sexuality. That's one of the reasons why people have so much shame, because sex is pleasure, but for many of us, we believe that if we feel too much pleasure, bad things will happen. We'll either be punished, or we'll, any number of things can happen because we feel too good. So there's that overlay of a belief system. And that just is because that's what we've been basically teaching for the last 2,500 years or so, that feeling good is a bad thing. Feeling good makes you lazy. It makes you do bad things. It's just a framework that feeling good is dangerous. And then what I really followed that path for a long time. I believe it or not, I was nearly anorexic at one point because I just was controlling my food because that's what I was told to do spiritually. I had teachers that were like, no, you've got to control all your impulses. And so I would do these things, but those didn't lead me to happiness. They didn't lead me to understanding. They didn't lead me to peace or peacefulness. They just led to more pain and confusion and suffering. So I just realized that something may not be right there, and this is what I want to share with your listeners. The thing is, let's just pretend for a moment that the idea of pain and suffering as a path to liberation is just an idea, right? It's not an actual thing, but it's an idea. It's somebody's idea.
Yeah.
Where they said, I think the more I beat myself up and the more pain I cause myself, that's going to lead me to touch the infinite. And that was somebody's idea, and it happens to be that idea, for a number of reasons, really took off. So now come to you and I, you in Singapore, me in the United States. We have similar belief systems or we came up with similar belief systems that pain and suffering was the route to transcendence. And so by that definition, really, the more pain you have in your life, the more suffering, the more turmoil you have, the better, because that's moving you closer to ultimate liberation. Well, at the peak of my, kind of being a quote unquote spiritual person, I realized I was just miserable. I wasn't able to eat. I couldn't have stuff. I was, I wasn't permitted to have sex. I had to focus on quieting my mind, and it was like these wild, impossible tasks. But after I actually went off on my own path and I had my awakening, one of the things that happened is I began to, question everything. I said, well, maybe some of these teachers, they just got it wrong. Maybe they just didn't have enough information. And so I was meditating, and I said, well, what if this idea that the opposite of pleasure is pain? What if that idea is actually incorrect? Because that's really what we live in life. We live in this idea of opposites. And so that's part of the natural aspect of duality, is this idea of this or that. The struggle of good over evil, light over dark, pain over pleasure, in a way, right? So I said, well, what if that's incorrect? Which is possible. It's certainly possible. There's, I've certainly believed things in the past and gotten it wrong. And I said, well, maybe some of my favorite teachers have done the same thing. So I went into deep meditation, and after about a week of kind of meditating on this particular idea, I realized something unfolded for me, and this is what I want to share with your listeners, that maybe the opposite of pleasure, maybe the opposite of pleasure is actually more pleasure. Right? So follow me on this for a second.
No, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Here's what I mean. So let's say I have this experience in my body. Like right now, you're having this experience, and your body's vibrating, you're feeling some goosebumps, you're like, whoa, okay, I'm feeling this energy. What if that energy became your baseline? What if that became kind of your normal everyday life? What if you're just like, oh wow, I'm feeling alive, and I'm feeling whole, and I'm feeling in the totality of my energy? What if that was the baseline? Then the opposite of that would not be pain. The opposite of that would be even more pleasure, more energy, more freedom, more expansion. And then that would eventually become your norm. And so now you've adjusted to that level. And this is my experience in the evolution of consciousness, is we get these leaps in consciousness, and then they become our normal. We get used to them. And so then the opposite of this new state of awareness would then be even more pleasure. And so that's what I want to just have your listeners and invite you to play with, is that what if life was really that I could feel good, and the opposite of feeling good is feeling even better.
Okay. That's really, really amazing what you just shared. What happens when I meditate is I connect with my heart and I visualize myself radiating love and light. But as you were describing this, I was just focusing on feeling pleasure in my body and then amplifying it and feeling even more pleasure. And what was happening, I noticed, was my energy field was expanding and I felt really good. So what you're just suggesting is a whole new way of meditation, and people can achieve awakening in this way?
Well, in my experience, I mean, there may be somebody who listens to this, and this one discussion is enough to illuminate them, to take them into that journey. For other people, the challenge I see is that the belief systems will get in the way. So you'll be able to expand so much, but then there'll be something that comes up that says, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, well, this is okay, Martha, but you're feeling good, whatever. We have whatever our moral social conditioning is. So what I would invite you to do is, even while you're hearing my voice right now, even in the face of the whatever sensations you're feeling in your body, you're still relaxing into your pleasure. You're still relaxing into your womb and your belly, and you're feeling the tingle in the entirety of your body, including your sex center, including your crown, including to your toes and your fingertips. And to just be okay with that. To just be like, well, yes, of course, I'm alive. And the feeling of being alive, the act of being alive, is a beautiful thing. And it's very, very wonderful.
This is absolutely beautiful what you're sharing with us. What would you say? Oh, yeah, we have to end. So thank you so much for coming onto this show. Check out Lawrence Lanoff's website. That's lawrencelanoff.com. He has a free gift, lawrencelanoff.com/free-gift. So check out his website and download your free gift. Thank you so much, Lawrence, for being on the show.
My pleasure.
I appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Great to be with you. It's a beautiful world.
Pleasure and more pleasure.
Yes, you got it exactly.